Hey, what is going on, y'all? Jets and Giants Nation. Welcome to the Blue versus Green show. I am your host. I'm your hoist. I'm your
Your
host.
horse?
I'm
Your
your
horse?
horse, your hoist. I'm your host, Jose, and I am joined today by Gabe. Say what's up, Gabe.
What up, what up, what up?
What is going on, y'all? What's up, Blue versus Green fans? Welcome to the show. Before we get started, thanks y'all for joining us. And before we get to everything, if you get a chance, please hit the like, rate, share, and subscribe. If y'all are enjoying this show, please give us some love and let us know that you're enjoying this for the rest of our fans out there. And let's get right into it. Let's start today with the New York Jets and
Ugh.
the visiting Atlanta Falcons. The Jets played a fucking fantastic game today. Uh,
I
Gabe,
don't
why don't
know
you
if that's
give us your
I think
thoughts on that game real quick, if you don't mind?
so I don't know. I mean, I came into the game with some high hopes, but at the same time with not a lot of expectations. I thought the first half was decent. Considering certain things, I know, considering the situation that the Jets are in with their specifically with their QB position as well as just their offense in general, their offensive play, their offensive, executors as well as offensive coordinator and stuff. So all things considered, I thought it was okay. I thought that it was a good half to build on, considering that you guys were getting the ball in the second half. However, I thought the second half was bad. It was terrible. There was nothing there to look at. Honestly, the second half there was no reason to keep watching, but I'm sure that we all did as the glutton for punishment that we are. And the ugliest part of the game to me, it was just the officiating, to be honest. I thought that there was a lot that was ugly in due part because of the Jets, but we're kind of used to that already, and we're even used to the officiating. But man, like when you're looking for anything to keep it to get you going, having the officiating suck the entire game out of you, just like I don't know how I would even feel playing for the Jets right now. I would just be like, why am I here? So that's how I feel about the game. It's nothing good to look at, truly. Very little to take away.
So it's basically, as a takeaway for you, for the Jets and for the fans. It's for the fans, why am I watching this? And for the players, it's why am I here?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
great
What am I doing
indicator for
here?
the
You know
season
what I
so
mean?
far.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was kind of flashes of some nice things in the first half. Got a couple of decent throws at Tim Boyle, or at least some good playmaking by Garrett Wilson, by Xavier Gibson, who is somebody who I think is one of
Yeah.
the highlights of today's game. Xavier Gibson played, I think, a fantastic game for his level and for the rookie that he is. And the defense did what the defense does week in and week out. Just made everybody look foolish, and even stopped the great Bijan Robinson, who talked about being a really aggressive, tough. He's a nice guy off the field, but he's a tough guy when he gets on the field. He wants to smash the guy on the other end or destroy the guy on the other end. What he was talking about earlier. And like, other than that, the QB play was not good. After like a few flashes in the first half, we saw a little Trevor Siemian in the fourth quarter, and like you said, that officiating really, really ugly. But I think one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit later when we get to this is like, I don't know what the Jets are going to do with this safety play, especially like the play of Jordan Whitehead. Like, it seems like every time somebody scores a touchdown, especially a tight end, it's Jordan Whitehead is involved in some busted coverage, somebody getting over top of him or something like that. But as far as takeaways, like, yeah, like you said, you can always talk about it, but there's very little that you really want to grab onto and say, like, here's something great about this game. So,
Right. Right. Right.
yeah.
So I mean, what do we start do? Do you want to start at the essentially at the defense? The biggest task that the Jets had this week was being able to stop Bijan Robinson, right? So, what do you think? How do you think they did?
Well,
In that regard.
The Jets did just fine on defense this week, right? I mean, like I mentioned that kind of a moment ago. Like, the defense did really well against Bijan Robinson, who's like one of the standout young running backs in the league, one of the maybe like rookie of the year, like offensive candidates. I think he missed a couple of games, if I'm not mistaken, but like he's been playing really well, and he's one of the players that they rely on here in Atlanta. I actually saw him play against the Vikings a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And I think in the final score, he had 18 rushes for 53 yards, which is a 2.9 average. So the defense did its job there. Like they did what they were supposed to do. I mean, the Falcons scored 13 points. It's not an explosive offense. It's one of the like more bottom of the barrel offenses in the league.
Mhm, mhm.
But the run game did a fantastic job, and Algier didn't really get much going, and Cordell Patterson like had 11 yards on 5 carries. So the run defense did a solid job, and Ritter only completed about 44% of his passes. So like obviously the pass defense
Yeah,
did a good
yeah.
job, I think, today as well.
It's funny because I thought that I was gonna come in here and say that I thought that the defense did they did their job in focusing on Bijan Robinson, but then that focus took away from being able to like focus on the rest, because I thought in the game in real time it looked like Desmond Ritter was looking like a decent quarterback, making some big plays, some big throws, scoring a touchdown on the road, something that they've not been able to do very much or
Mm-hmm.
very well.
Mm-hmm.
And Desmond Ritter looked like a competent quarterback. When I look at the stats, he definitely does not, but he seemed like he was. And I think that he only seemed like he was because the comparison that we have on the field is the Jets. And that's a very, very big problem when a bad quarterback looks like a good one in comparison to you and your offensive play. I was ready to kind of blow the defense up just on the fact that they cannot stop it already.
She's
Jesus.
starting already. She
Yeah,
can't
already.
hear any of this shit because of how
She
bad
doesn't
it's
want to
been.
do this anymore. She's like, what are we doing this for? But
She's
anyway,
another one that's given up.
but anyway, yeah, I was ready to blow them up. I thought that, like I said, I thought that they did their assignment on Bijan and then forgot the assignments on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like looking at the stats, that's terrible. 12 for 27, 121 yards, one touchdown. Their best rusher only got 53 yards. It looked like they did their jobs, just that the Jets offense, once again, anemic, did not do theirs.
Yeah, they don't look like a competent NFL offense on the other side of the field. And you can get to that in a minute, but like Desmond Ritter, I think the illusion was that the throws that he was making were really solid throws, and into like you know the holes in zone coverages, and like hitting a man with just a little bit of separation on the
Right.
man defenses, and then that touchdown that was right over top of a sleeping Jordan Whitehead. Like all that's going to make a average quarterback, like you said, the offense on the other side, and just making enough throws and being a basic ass game manager, which is the Falcons can get
Yeah.
away with
Yeah.
because they're 6-6. I think are they in first place? If
Yeah,
I'm
they're in
not
first place,
mistaken,
and
they might be.
actually, they're in sole possession of first place and
Yeah,
guaranteeing themselves a home playoff game, which
but
is crazy.
that's kind of what we talked about. Like,
Yeah.
I think either last week or earlier this week we talked about who had more to play for in this game, didn't we? Like, and the Falcons having a reason to play because they're in the playoff hunt.
Well,
They,
they
you
have
know,
a
you know,
technically they have less of a reason to play. They're in the playoff hunt, but they're already in the playoffs so far. They haven't clinched, but how bad the South is, the chances of them not being in the playoffs are very, very slim. Even with their bad play, because they got the Carolina Panthers and the Buccaneers, down there and stuff. So they had something to play for, but they had way, way less to play for than the Jets, who had essentially another must-win game, the game of the season, essentially, because if they win this game, now
their
there
only
is
hope.
a playoff hope.
Mhm.
And on top of that, we're all like waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers says this week, that it's still not guaranteed, but one of those factors is that the Jets have to still be in it, sort of. They don't have to be in the playoffs, but they just need to be in it. And for you guys to be in it, this was a must-win game. Not winning this game essentially kind of shuts all that down.
Yeah,
I
I,
don't
I
see I don't see how we can go another week wondering if Aaron Rodgers is going to play this season. Maybe he does play, but but it's not going to be for a playoff spot.
well, I think in some interviews recently, he made the stipulation that after like all the bold talk and all the video of him on the field and all of him, him making throws, like planting on his back foot. He did make sure to make the correction, like he would only return if the Jets had something to play for. Because I
Yeah.
think everybody was already saying like this motherfucker must be crazy if he thinks he's going to come back to like a 4-10 Jets or a 4-11 Jets. I think by then if we lose the next couple of games, which is at this point looking increasingly likely, they'd be about 4-10. So what exactly are you coming back to play for at that point? Hina agrees. She can't even listen to that kind of shit. Like
Yeah.
who could even listen to that kind of nonsense? But
I mean, I don't even know how the fans come back to watch, to be honest. So I still got something to watch, which is the Giants,
you do still have something to
and,
watch.
and Tommy TD, I guess. But man, these Jets, they really make Sunday afternoons hard. I'll be honest.
Let's go. Nobody really wants to do this, but like let's get to the other side of the ball after like talking about the defense and like talking about Aaron Rodgers possibly returning. What did you see like out of this Jets offense, if anything at all today? You talked about the first half. Maybe you saw a little something. What was that?
So this is going to be my take essentially on not just the offense, but essentially the coaching staff and Salah, and call it a hot take, but I think that this game even more solidifies why I don't think that Salah is a good coach, at least not a good head coach. I thought that the first half felt decent. I thought that, even though they didn't score a touchdown, they were in a really good opportunity, good chance to score a touchdown. Boyle, I believe in that last play, it was like third and they were essentially like 3rd and 13, 3rd and 14, something like that, away from in red zone. And on that final play, the ball just slipped. I guess the ball was wet or whatever. He was complaining about it being wet, or just like, his hands being wet, didn't dry. Maybe call that like, a bit of a, rookie mistake, even though he's not a rookie, on his part, not making sure it's not dry. There was a really good opportunity, but that was preceded by a really good drive, a really nice drive by Boyle. I liked how he threw the ball. I thought that in some of those plays, he floated the ball the right way. He made the balls relatively catchable. Now that's going to come into play a little bit later when he made the ball really catchable for the Falcons. But that first half, I thought the play calling looked creative. It looked fun. It looked like there was really good offensive synergy. And then in the second, and a lot of that was unfortunately taken away by the penalties that were called, which I really want to get into later on. And then in the second half, they kind of came out still a little bit anemic. I thought that some of the plays was still looking okay. And then he threw the interception, which was obviously a really bad throw. I thought he overshot Gary Wilson right into the hands of I forget what the cornerback was, but essentially he may not have read the defense properly. And one of the issues that I've complained about with Zach is that he made it very obvious where he was going to go, and the defense saw that coming and prepared for the catch. But this is where I wanted to talk a little bit about the coaching. I think that it was a terrible move to take him out in the fourth quarter and put Siemian in. And the reason why is because if you were going to take him out at the half, because the offense is already kind of essentially caught up to the speed of the game with Boyle. It's one interception, which was, realistically, his biggest mistake in the game. Maybe, yes, he missed some opportunities early on, but this was like, I think, the only mistake that Boyle made. Missing opportunities, making a mistake of two different things in my eyes. And you take him out right away just to put in Siemian, who hasn't played yet, to try to win you the game. It's a little bit too late to put him in and get him up to speed, to the speed of the game, get him gelled with the offense. And what do we end up seeing with Siemian? Making a bunch of mistakes himself, causing some really bad sacks, which I think was just not having presence of mind. That really, really bad fumble at the end that ended up costing you essentially the game. It's just I don't know. Like I thought that this was very, very similar to taking out Zach way too late in the season. I don't know why he took him out, and I just thought that it was a really bad move, and it just shows, in my opinion, just lack of confidence in Robert Saleh and his coaching ability, in his real game time coaching ability. When it's time to make a decision right here, right now, he hesitates pulling the trigger and then pulls the trigger too late.
So the offense,
my opinion, of course.
The offense in the first half like had some moments where it was buzzing, like you said. I think the play calling was okay. I think it was better. I think there were some moments like that sort of fake that Boyle got over to Gibson for about 30 yards. That was one of the best catches that I've seen from a Jets receiver this season, honestly, because he made a fantastic adjustment, came back to it, grabbed it, fell down on his back and made sure to secure it. So the offense had some things that were looking fairly solid with Tim Boyle. I think again, even with some players coming back this week, the offensive line just really, really, really looks terrible. It doesn't give any quarterback much of a chance back there.
This offensive line is. I thought that the Giants was bad, and I still think that the Giants' offensive line is bad, but we at least have JMS and Andrew Thomas. So we have a couple guys that are just locked down, players on our offensive line. On the Jets, I mean, Tittman is
He's like
only
one of the only
reliable, person on your offensive line. Outside of that, it just looks terrible.
Tittman, and then like Becton is a weird example because he either is solid or he's committing penalties and busting blocks all over the place for like one game and then doing well every other game. And like the stats are very strange when it comes to that. This was not a good game for him. But I mean, the offense looked better in some ways in the first half. Timing wise, in terms of taking out Trevor Siemian, I mean, I feel like at that point, at this point in the season, at this point in the game, it might be an indictment on Saleh's coaching, but it's sort of an all hands on deck situation where it's like, we have to win this game. We're down by 5 points. That was a really, really bad interception. That was just like not knowing what the play was, or something was clearly a mental mistake more than a throwing mistake on that one. And I think that's why Saleh decided to make the decision in that moment.
But then let me ask you,
no option. There's really no options like that you have at quarterback there. So it's kind of a wash.
It's really his mistake though, right? Because look what Bill Belichick did. He didn't make what's his name, Mac Jones number 3. He made him number 2. Why? Because if he has to make a quarterback switch, he needs to put whoever has the most in-season experience right now in the middle of a game, right? So like if Zach was number 2 and he felt like, all right, I need to make some sort of a switch, let me put Zach back in there because he knows the offense, he knows the play calling, and he's played this season, so he's ready to get hit. Trevor Siemian has not played at all, so even if he knew everything, he still does not. He's not ready to get hit. Period. That's why put him in earlier so that he can kind of adjust himself to the speed of the game. I thought it was a terrible decision, and essentially Saleh hamstrung himself by putting Zach number 3.
Well, I mean, the other thing about in terms of the quarterback decision is that like Siemian actually coming into the game at that point, until the late fumble and the interception, which were really on the last 2 drives, he actually looked fairly solid. He made a good throw to Gibson. He was a little behind some wide receivers. And then there was that one sack fumble that was like a really bad one early on. But like the other thing that you could say is that up until that interception, like Tim Boyle was actually looking, like you said, decent, not good, not great.
Yeah,
I mean, not good compared to even Ritter, who was only completing 45% of his passes on the other end of the field. But I think what was it until that Bates
better
got the interception?
Better than Ritter. Tim Boyle had 14 catches.
Yeah, Boyle had a 56%.
I mean, Boyle had
56%.
Yeah.
So he was looking okay. I mean, I think again, like the problem with all of this is that when you don't have anybody that can really play quarterback, it doesn't really matter. And then, going beyond that, right? I think Saleh, you can say that there's bad coaching at play there, but I think to make it an indictment on him when there's not really many options for him in the first place is a little premature. But going beyond that, also you had the offense being hamstrung in the first half. Maybe it wouldn't have been as much so. and even a little bit in the second half there before he made the decision by the penalties that you were talking about in this game, the holding calls against DJ
Yeah,
Reed and like other things that looked to me a little bit out of control, especially when, and I'll let you get to it right now, but
yeah,
at the end of the game, they called that kind of what the announcers referred to as a ticky tack, or they didn't call that ticky tack kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
defensive pass interference on, I think it was the Jets at that point.
Right. I thought that was maybe a makeup call. I think they
Yeah.
didn't call it because of like, well, they messed up a lot early on and they chose not to call
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
in order to kind of make it up. But the reason I think, before we get there, the reason I think that it is a little bit of an indictment on Salah, it's because in one way, you've given me an example of like, all right, Zach Wilson has had what we consider, or what some of us consider a really bad quarterback play, but he's stuck with him. He stays in there. I'm not going to take you out. But then with Boyle, it's like the first mistake that he makes, I'm taking you out, and that to me is just like it almost feels like favoritism. Like if I have 3 kids and I favor one, and they're like, all right, well, I'm being forced to give the other one a little bit. And then the moment they make a mistake, I'm like, all right, see, now I'm taking you out, and I'm going to go back to my favorite kid, except that he couldn't because Zach was the injury QB essentially. I would not be surprised if next week we see Zach Wilson, because Salah's going to point to the mistakes and the play this week, when really I thought that the reason Tim Boyle looked decent was because he had a second week in order to get a little bit more comfortable with the play. Something that every quarterback, including Siemian, should have. If you're going to put him in there, you got to give him a little bit of time to get used to the QB play and the offense before you can, judge him completely.
Only Mac Jones is not allowed to do that. There's only one
Mac
quarterback
Jones
that's
was
not.
allowed to do that, right? Because Mac Jones was benched 4 times, which means that he got 4 chances.
Yeah, but has he even had 2 games? I don't think necessarily like in
No,
every
he didn't,
stretch.
but
I don't
but
think
he
he's
got
had
4
two
chances
games
to
to
prove that he
reprove
should.
himself
He
all
got
four
4 chances
times.
to prove that he should start, and he lost that start this week. I think that I also think that that's how Zach Wilson should have been treated. I think that Zach Wilson should have been.
Number
I
two, I
think
agree.
that Boyle should have came in second half of some games and then give Zach another chance next week, and then try again and try again. Okay, but they did not. Okay, fine. Well, I think that if you're going to make Boyle the starter, you got to give him a couple of games in order to kind of really gel. I thought that he played better this week than he played last week, and I felt like that's only going to get better, or it could get better rather, potentially. But that's why
God's
you don't
ears.
necessarily take him out in the fourth quarter, especially when you're down 2 field goals. You're down 2 field goals. All you need to do is get into field goal range twice, and you win the game essentially. And I don't see how putting in a fresh QB that hasn't even seen a preseason game, in that kind of a moment, to win you the game makes sense. But yeah, and then the officiating, I thought like the officiating was absolutely horrendous. I thought that I understand having bad calls is one thing. The Jets had at least 3, potentially 4 back-to-back penalties that nobody could point to where the penalty was at all. And if
Yeah.
that doesn't make you quit or want to quit, I don't know what could. If I'm on defense, if I make an interception and they say
That was a highlight,
illegal
right?
hands to the face with the receiver running into me and me barely even coming up to the chin, didn't even go to the face. Hands were up in the chin, and that's both of our hands. Okay. And you push off me and I make an interception, and you're calling illegal hands to the face or PI or whatever it is on me. Like, how does it make you want to play? When there's like a BS holding call on Garrett Wilson where he barely touched the jersey, where it doesn't make any sense.
That was on the
I don't.
return, right?
I really feel like there needs to be an investigation at this point, because how can you be that bad at your job and not be held accountable for it? How can these refs not be fired? Or how can a team, like in MMA, if someone is supposed to corner me or judge my fight, I can go to the commission and be like, hey, there's some bias, there's some previous history of bad calling or whatever. I want a different ref, and they'll review it and make a change. I feel like the Jets need something like that, because
The league should
this
have
is
something like that, but it's not
ridiculous.
going to happen.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's not even a hot take, I don't think, anymore at this point, because if you look at how the quality of officiating is in all sports, and not just the NFL, the quality of officiating, at least in the eyes of fans, and this is anecdotally, right? It's social
And the
media
commentators.
and the commentators, at least on the NFL. I haven't seen it as much in basketball games. Um, the commentators have made these comments, and it's happened more and more with the greater legalization of sports betting.
Yes.
Now,
Yes. I mean,
correlation, you know what they say about
yeah, I
correlation
mean,
and
there's like, you know,
causation.
like there's no such thing as coincidence. And if you graph all of this, okay, the rise of sports betting and then the rise of penalties and certain questionable officiating, it just there's no like I don't know how you can I don't I don't know how you can call coincidence on that, because
I
it's
mean,
one
in,
thing for
in
it to
big
happen in one
moments,
game. You know, it's
in
one thing to
big
happen in
moments.
one game, happening every single week. Every single week, there's at least one NFL game where even the public commentators and the players and the fans and everybody are just like, this is way too obvious.
Hmm. Yeah,
You know what I
the
mean?
Chiefs was one of the worst wide receiver rooms in the league, are somehow still one of the teams in hot in the playoff hunt and first in their division. Like I'm not saying the Chiefs are a bad team, but we've seen it happen in games against the Chiefs ourselves specifically.
Specifically,
Seen it with the
specifically the
Bills.
Chiefs.
Y'all saw it with the Bills. The Giants saw it with the Bills. So like there's some very specific moments where the officiating is a little suspect, we'll call it.
Yeah,
But
man. Yeah.
what do you think about Trevor Siemian? I guess quick take.
The
I
thing
know
is
you
that
said you don't think he had enough time, but like based on even whatever
yeah,
small
so
sample.
to be completely honest, I don't it's hard because I need to kind of approach this the same way that I approached Boyle. It's your first outing. You're gonna have the jitters. You're gonna be a little bit unsure of yourself a little bit, especially when you're on the high pressure situation. You're being asked to win the game for the team because you're going out there down on time and down on points. All that stuff has an effect on you. And on top of that, if we consider that players need to get comfortable even getting hit, I saw a lot of fear in his eyes, which is why we had some of those sacks that happened to Simeon. I felt like some of his indecision came from a little bit of like subconscious fear, you know, like, oh, I'm about to get hit. What do I do? Where do I go? Like he had a little bit like a pitter patter feet is as what I like to call it, where he takes a couple steps back out of the pocket, doesn't see anything but sees pressure, and all of a sudden his feet are shaking, his feet are taking a bunch of little steps, he doesn't know where to turn, and then he gets sacked or he makes a bad throw or whatever it is. It's something that I think I've seen from Zach himself. And again, this is in part due to the offensive line. Um, so it's hard for me to judge him too much because he hasn't seen enough play to say that he's comfortable playing an NFL game this season.
Mhm, mhm.
But he did not. I don't think that he looked comfortable. And I think that for me, that's one thing that I point to with Zach is that he looks really comfortable in certain situations and really uncomfortable in a lot of other situations. Some of those situations that he looks super comfortable in, 2-minute drill. When there's 2 minutes left in the game, he looks like the most confident person ever in the history of sports. Okay. But a lot of times he looks really uncomfortable, not sure of himself, some like kind of stutter stepping and stuff like that. And I thought that that's one thing that I think I see from Boyle. He looks a lot more comfortable. And so I don't know. I think that it's going to take more than a quarter for me to judge Simeon, but I don't like what I see. I already think that like if you're going to make anything of the rest of the season, it need to be either it needs to be Boyle and Zach or Zach and Boyle. I would still like to see Boyle start, but with Zach as support, put Zach in on a second half if the first half doesn't go well, and go from there because you're not going to win a game in a quarter. Not a quarterback change isn't going to win a game in a quarter. It's just not. If you feel like
It's
you need to
pretty
make a
rare.
quarterback change, make it at the half.
It's pretty rare. I mean, Yeah, Simeon had, I think he had moments also where he really looked either incredibly comfortable in the pocket. Again, he made that really great throw down the sideline to Gibson. He had that, I think it was a third and 10. There was a really great scramble, or no, I think it was a first and 10, actually. It was just a really great scramble to get about 8 yards. And then, because there was nothing, there was like maybe a Brees Hall underneath. And that was like the only play that he could make. He decided, you know what, I'm going to try this, and this is going to be a better play.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, he didn't look really, really solid. I think Boyle, yeah, as bad as he looked, he has the most quote unquote poise in the pocket at the moment, from the small sample size, but it really hasn't led to much of results. He has the one touchdown so far.
Yeah.
I know that nobody else can score a touchdown on this offense. And we had, 2 holding calls in a row at one point, and that's not going to help you get anywhere either. But I mean, yeah, the quarterback play is not going to win any games this season. I think the season is kind of a wash. I think there's one nice highlight out of this week that I just want to really bring up one more time. Xavier Gibson looking Tyreek Hill like. I'm
He
not saying
did.
he's Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying he ever will be Tyreek Hill. This is not me trying to hot take it and say that we have a superstar in the making. But the way that you should play a player like him is in the style of like a stretch number one, like a Tyreek Hill.
I
I don't know
will
if you,
hot take it. I'm definitely gonna take it. I think that he could be the next Tyreek Hill. The way that he moves, the speed that he has, the play he can do it on special teams. I think that he can run. You can use him as a running back. You can use him as a receiver. You can use him everywhere. This kid really knows how to move. He knows how to fake people out. He knows how
Mhm.
to create space. He can catch the freaking ball. I mean, this kid is special, and I think that he can be developed into someone like Tyreek Hill. It doesn't mean that he needs to be a clone. Doesn't mean that he needs to be as fast as Tyreek Hill. But
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
that he's a game changer because I guarantee you, moving forward, every single team that plays the Jets, as bad as the Jets are, okay, as a matter of fact, this is the hot take.
Mhm.
Teams moving forward in priority of what they need to prepare for on against the Jets offense is going to be Garrett Wilson, then Gibson, then Hall. I don't even think they need to prepare against Hall over Gibson. I think that they need to prioritize Gibson more than Hall because the running game has been terrible. Hall has not been able to create to open up any big plays and stuff like that. And part of that is play calling, and the other part of that is Hall not maybe not. I've been saying now for a
Pretty
few weeks.
yards.
Hall not making the plays. It's one thing to be a really great running back, just on paper and stuff like that. It's another thing to, when your team needs you to make a play, can you make a play? And I don't feel like Hall has done that. And maybe that's
Not in the
just
last
the
few games.
situation beating down on Hall. But right now, I don't see anybody that really has to worry that much about Hall. I feel like you need to worry about Gibson more than Hall.
I think teams are stacking the box, and that's something that like we're just not seeing as much anymore because they know that Tim Boyle's not going to beat him and Trevor Siemian's not going to beat him. At the best, you're going to get like a 1 touchdown, 1 interception game from any of those guys. I feel like so, but you're kind of right. You're mostly right on that one. I think teams will always have to sort of prepare for Brees Hall because he could break
Yeah,
a big run anytime if you're not prepping for him, right? But yeah,
priority
the
three.
last few weeks, yeah, priority number 3 in a sense. Priority number 3, like in the in the game, but not in the game plan, if that makes any sense. Because you're gonna
Maybe.
you're gonna game plan for him almost number one because you're gonna stop the run if you stack the box. And again, like okay, Garrett Wilson's gonna get his 60, 70 yards and maybe his like 4 to 8 catches, but he's not going to beat you. And then Gibson, right, like is the other guy who's maybe looking like he might emerge at something interesting. But I guess we'll see. Maybe he'll be one of the
Yeah.
bright spots that improves week in and week out for the New York Jets. It
I
can't be
think
as
we can
ugly as George
officially
Whitehead.
say I think we can officially say that this season is over, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I've been asking this question for weeks,
it's
but let me
over.
ask you now. Can you now officially say that the Jet season is over?
Of course, the season is over. I can't. the only way that anything, I mean, there mathematically it's probably not over, but like mathematically, it would probably require like every single team in the AFC to lose like in some ridiculous fashion over the next few weeks for them to even like sniff the playoffs. So yeah, the season's over. I mean, mathematically, maybe no. Realistically, absolutely. Fuck yes. It's time to start looking towards next year.
Yeah. I
All
mean,
right.
what Walt will tell you. Walt says that the Jets always play to the level of their opponents. So, you do have a chance to beat the Texans, you have a chance to beat the Dolphins, you have a chance to beat the everybody. You have a chance to beat everybody. And if
Or
you
the
win out the next 5
4-8.
games, then 9-8, you can actually make it in.
I mean,
But
yeah, mathematically, yeah, but we would have to beat the Dolphins again. We'd have to beat the Dolphins, right? Yeah, like we can't beat the Patriots for some reason. It's just let's see what happens again next week, I guess, when we talk about this.
you
Because
know who
right
is
now,
technically still in it? Who still has a season? You
you
know
know
who
who
has
still has a season?
it.
I'm gonna tell
That's
you who
right.
has a
That's
season
right. The Giants still got a season, baby.
still, even though they have the same record. You have the same record. You
Yeah, I
have
know, but I feel like it's a little bit
far
more
more of a
hopeful on our
chance.
end. It's
What's
funny
that?
because we're also dealing with a down like quarterback. We're dealing with 2 down quarterbacks. So are the Jets. Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers are out.
But you got
Daniel
the best
Jones and
quarterback in New
and
York right now,
Terada,
though.
Terada's out too.
What does
However,
it
for the
matter?
Giants, it does not seem like doom and gloom. I have not seen a Giants fan that feels like it's doom and gloom. Of course, we're on a 2-win streak and then coming off of the bye. So the last 3 weeks have been really good for the Giants. But even so, it just does not seem like it's been that bad of a season right now. I think the first 10 games of the season was really bad. But I feel like we've forgotten about those 10 games with the last 3 weeks.
Has to get their 2 cents in for the moment. But like, yeah, y'all actually have a chance because like, let's look at what happened in the last week, right? In order for all of this to work, I think you have your locks in the Eagles, the Lions, the Niners, and the Cowboys, probably, right? Those are like teams that are probably most likely going to get into the playoffs. But the Falcons won, but that's the NFC South, and nobody really gives a crap about any of them. Like their number one team's going to get in, but the Vikings lost, the Seahawks lost, the Packers are playing against the Chiefs tonight. Although that's going to be an interesting one because it's Jordan Love after a couple of really good games. Let's see how he plays today because y'all get to face him next week. Get to face the Packers next week, right?
Yeah.
But the Rams are playing now. I think they're winning 13-10 against the Browns. So we'll see what happens there. The Bucks are playing now. They're winning 7-3 against the Buccaneers. And y'all own the tiebreaker against the Bears and continue to own the Commanders. So, like, there's
Yeah, we own the Commanders like the Patriots own you.
I wonder if there was like, yeah, I mean, pretty much, like fuck it. It's the honest truth. You like just beat the shit out of them every time. They're just like the Patriots beat the heck out of us every single time. But like y'all are way more in the conversation. How do you like really 100% feel? Do you think that there's a chance that Tommy TD, Saquon Barkley, and Sexy Dexy can lead this Giants team to a playoff berth? And if that
I don't know.
happens,
That would be really interesting.
how do you feel about this team?
We'll see. We'll see how this game. I mean, the other question is too. We'll see. We'll see if Terod actually comes back. I doubt it because I think that Tommy TD has been great the last couple of weeks. At least the vibe is. Like I said, I call him, the Giants Mike White. And like there's this like funny thing that's happening with Tommy TD over here in New York. So I don't think that they'll sit him in favor of Terod if Terod is ready to play, just because he's feeling it, the fans are feeling it, the team is feeling it. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know. We'll see. I think that I feel like we have the flip of a coin's chance to make it in. So yeah.
It's not exactly 50-50, but it feels
It's not. It's not, but
right?
that's what it feels like. That's
it's
the
like
thing.
actually like a 1 in
That's the
30 chance
feeling
or
that
something
we have,
still.
right?
I mean, at the end, let's look at it this way. At the end of tonight, you can look up what's the game tomorrow is. I think tomorrow is the what's the Monday night game? That is that the Chiefs Packers game? Yeah. No, excuse me. It's Bengals Jaguars. That's not really related to what y'all are trying to do
Mhm.
here. But like at the end of tonight, actually, you can really look up because we're recording in the middle of Sunday
Right,
evening,
right,
right?
right after the Jets game.
Right after the Jets game, it's about 6 p.m. Eastern time. So at around 11 or so after the Chiefs and Packers play, you can look up maybe with a newfound sense of confidence if the Packers lose, if somehow the the Buccaneers don't hold on, if somehow the Rams don't hold on, like something might actually be happening in New York. And it's I'm not going to say it's the opposite of what New York expected because we kind of were hoping for both teams to make it in, but like everybody was banking on, oh, it's going to be the Jets in this position right now. They can actually make
Yeah,
it
I
to the
know.
playoffs.
Like
Like,
they were
no,
saying, unkillable, like BT
even
said.
even later,
Unkillable.
even later in the season, right? Like people with with the Jets with a slightly better record were like writing the Giants off and saying it was the Jets that could still rally back, but
Right.
does not seem to be the case. All right. Well, let's look forward real quick then again to next week. What do y'all think is going to happen with the Packers coming into MetLife with Jordan Love? Again, we'll see what happens after tonight, but like Jordan Love has had his best 2 games as a pro so far the last couple of weeks.
So, I don't think, and I think we might have to change the graphic down there, right? Or no.
Let's get to the
But yeah,
next.
so I
On to the
think
next one.
that we have not had a very, very good record on prime time. So that's one of the main things that scare me. But the Packers are coming into MetLife. We're coming off of a bye. We're coming off of 2 wins. We're coming in with the Tommy TD fever.
Mhm.
And I think the crowd's going to be super behind them, and that I think might spook Jordan Love a little bit. Um, and I don't know. I feel like we have a good chance of beating them. Our defense has been playing really well. Our defense every week has been getting better, even though there's been some hiccups here and there in the last couple of games.
Mhm.
I think from the on the defensive side, but our defense is our best tool that we have on the team on this season,
Mhm.
and so I think that the defense is going to be able to win this game for us against the Packers. It'll be a little bit of a tight game, I think. So if we can keep the Packers to 10 points and under, and we can score a touchdown or two and a few field goals, I think that the defense wins us this game. What about you and the Texans?
So Texans at Jets. Holy hell. That is I mean, after the last couple of weeks, we've gotten beaten by Desmond Ritter, among other things. We've gotten beaten by Aiden
Yeah,
O'Connell. We've gotten beaten by who else recently? Let me look back on some recent memories here. I mean, man, we've gotten beaten even by quarterbacks who are not playing well. And oh man, looking ahead to next week against CJ Stroud, who's been one of the best quarterbacks in football. I don't know. Did they have a bye this week or did they play this week? I think they were playing earlier today, right?
Yeah, they were
If
playing
I'm not
earlier today.
mistaken. And they pulled it out right against the Broncos, who had just won
Yeah,
5 straight. And CJ Stroud, let's see, he had himself another
yeah, he won. He
solid
won
game,
22-17.
274
Yeah, CJ
yards.
Stroud. CJ Stroud is the real thing. I think CJ Stroud might be the next coming of Tom Brady.
I mean, he had a couple of interceptions in the last few weeks. He's had at least one. I think he's had 3 interceptions in his last 2 games, but he still has only had, I think, 4 or 5 on the season. He didn't throw an interception again today. I think he's going to have his toughest game yet against this Jets defense. I think it's what we do is we make these quarterbacks have a tough time again, other than what Dak Prescott, who's actually playing at an MVP level. Boy, was I wrong on the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. But even still, like even depending on what happens next week, I think that you and I both agree it should be a Tim Boyle and a Zach Wilson, maybe at a number 2. But what the hell is he going to even salvage? I think CJ
Yeah, I
Stroud. I
mean,
think
yeah, no,
they
I
could still
think
score.
yeah, that's the thing. I think that like this game was this game today was your last chance to have like kind of this game today. You needed to win for the fans. There wasn't anything else really to play for, I think. But the fans needed this one. I don't know what the fans can root for in the last few weeks of the season, to be honest
Yeah,
with you. So it's definitely quite tough for you guys.
He
So
didn't show up for a
that
barely
being
above
said, I don't know that CJ
mediocre
Stroud
Jets or
is going to
Texas.
have that many issues
Yeah.
because week by week the defense does show up, but week by week the defense also looks broken. I feel like the defense comes out, the Jets
Oh,
defense
he'll get
comes
a
out
touchdown or
strong.
two. I don't think
Huh?
he's gonna. I don't think we're gonna completely embarrass him. I think he'll get a touchdown or two.
Right.
But I think it's
But,
gonna be
but
one
this
of
is what
his
I'm
toughest, if
seeing.
not his toughest game as a pro.
This is what I'm seeing from
We'll
your
see.
defense is that your defense comes out to play every single week, but they're breaking earlier in the game. I feel like your defense is sort of, I don't want to say giving up, but I want to maybe use the words
The discipline is getting worse. That's
fighting,
what I see.
like losing motivation earlier in the game. I see the frustrations happening earlier on defense than
Mm-hmm.
before. And I think that that's the reason that the defense isn't winning you the games anymore. The defense was winning you the games before because they weren't getting frustrated. They weren't letting themselves get in their own heads so early on. But now, like, this is like 3-4 weeks now where coming out of the half, the defense is either too tired to play or just mentally broken. And I think that with CJ Stroud, defense is going to come out strong, but I think the defense is also going to be mentally broken once again.
So here's what I think is actually going to happen. I'm actually going to quantify it as like a 80% chance that the Jets lose this game by like one score or less, and a 20% chance that the Jets play up to the level of the Texans the way that they've done against teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles, and they absolutely win this game. And whoever the starting quarterback is throws for like 3 touchdowns, and then the following week is an absolute mess because that's the kind of thing that would happen to the Jets. And by the way, I want to make my quick prediction for the Giants game. I think y'all are actually going to win that one, and I'm not going to call it a shootout, but I think there's going to be a lot of offense in that game. I have the feeling you're not going to slow down Jordan Love. I think Tommy TD is going to continue to show why he was
Let's see.
rookie of the week a couple of weeks ago. Although I think it's going to be a tough one for him as well. Maybe one of the games that's going to show that he can make mistakes and still have some poise. I'm starting to like the kid.
Yeah.
He's a
I mean, we'll see. It's
story.
going to be a battle for rookie of the week, right? So
yeah, it's going to be a battle again, I think. But yeah, I say that's all she wrote for this one. And let's look forward to, well, almost nothing to play for the Jets next week, and something to play for the Giants. At least there's something to root for in New York football. Damn it. In week 14, there'll be something to root for.
There's Tommy TD.
Tommy TD. Another big story. All right.
Yeah. All right, man.
Well, yeah.
Thank you guys all for watching and sticking with us to the end of this. Yet again, another miserable retelling of Jets football. Again, please make sure that you guys like, rate, share, and subscribe, and share this with any and all of your friends that are suffering from Jets PTSD and need a little bit of a support group. We can be your support group for that. And of course, Hina never fails to need to say hello, so she say hi and say goodbye. Until next time, go Giants
and go Jets. Peace out, y'all.
Peace.